The Hinterkaifeck murders are my favorite unsolved mystery of the grisly underworld of true crime. This is because it's not a classic case of whodunit. There is a whole myriad of unanswered questions. Each question raises yet another. Who would murder an entire family, including their innocent young children and their maid, and why? How was one person able to murder 6? How were they lured to the barn? Widowed Victoria Gabriel lived with her 2 young children Casilia and Joseph, her parents Andreas and Casilia Gruber, and their maid Maria Baumgartner in Germany. They kept very much to themselves in a lonely Bavarian homestead on the outskirts of town near the woods. Little did they know the farmhouse would be demolished, as neighbors could not bear the ghoulish reminder of what happened there. The neighbors had become concerned when young Casilia missed school for several days, the entire family missed church, and their post piled up at the post office uncollected. A search party discovered the bodies of the maid and the 2-year-old boy slaughtered in their beds. The rest of the family's bodies were found in the barn. They were stacked up one on top of another in the barn, covered with hay. The injuries were brutal: smashed skulls, strangulation, shattered jaws, and gaping wounds, all caused by a mattock pickaxe. The 7-year girl was found with clumps of her hair in her hands, torn out in shock and distress. She survived for several hours after the deaths of the other members of the family. Nearly 100 years later, the case remains unsolved, and the identity of the murderer is unknown to this day, despite police interviewing over 100 suspects. Not only was the crime as terrifying as any horror film, the more you look into the story, the more disturbing it becomes, as the killer is not the only bizarre and unexplained detail surrounding the case. 6 months before the murders, the family's former maid quit her position. Why? Because she feared that the house was haunted after hearing footsteps and voices from the attic during the night. The new maid was murdered on the very first day of her new position. In the weeks leading to the attack, Andreas found scratch marks on the lock to the tool shed, a strange newspaper in the house, and that house keys had disappeared. He also found footprints in the snow that lead into the house but never left. Nobody had been outside the house after the snow had fallen. On the March 31, 1922, the killer somehow lured each family member to the barn, one by one. They killed them all in the same way, a combination of strangulation and beating them to death. They then beat the maid Maria to death in her death, followed by 2-year-old Joseph in his cot. Now, perhaps even more disturbing, the killer did not flee the scene. The bodies were not discovered for 4 more days. One reason was that smoke was still coming out of the farmhouse chimney, making neighbors think that the family was home. The killer took residence in their home for several days after. They ate the family's food and even tended to menial tasks about the farm, such as feeding the animals and milking the cows. 3 men investigated the farm 4 days later: Lorenz Schlittenbauer, Michael Pohl, and Jacob Sigel. They discovered the barn door open, revealing the horror within. Michael and Jacob said that Lorenz behaved suspiciously, seeming to be unnaturally calm and comfortable with touching and moving the bodies. The murder weapon, the mattock pickaxe, was found 1 year later in the attic. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the chilling mystery of the Hinterkaifeck murders. This case, with its layers of unanswered questions and eerie details, continues to captivate and unsettle even a century later. As we've explored the perplexing circumstances surrounding this tragedy, we're reminded of the tangled web of intrigue and horror that shrouds it. From the brutal manner in which the family met their end to the bizarre behavior of the killer in the aftermath, every aspect of this case leaves us with more questions than answers. Yet, despite the passage of time and exhaustive investigations, the identity of the perpetrator remains elusive, adding another layer of complexity to an already confounding story. We extend our gratitude to you for accompanying us on this journey into the heart of one of history's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. If you found this exploration as intriguing and haunting as we did, we invite you to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the enigmatic world of true crime. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.